everybody. We are today going to go over notes on this guy, Philip II. Ooh, my cursor did that target thing. I've never seen that before. That was pretty cool. Let me try that again. Yeah, fill in the blank notes. That's pretty cool. And I just messed that up. Undo. All right, so just like all my videos, I don't do this over. This is all in one take. So here we go with Philip II. So Greek culture starts to spread all throughout the ancient world. As Greece becomes more advanced with things, people start to speak Greek. Greek architecture becomes the model for how buildings should be built. And speaking of Greek architecture, if we were in my classroom, I would show you again the columns out right outside my door, but we're not. So here's some columns. So we have Doric, which is just your basic. We have Ionic, which has like this scroll looking thing. And then the most fancy, Corinthian. So those of you that for Greek day are the city-state of Corinth, look at your columns. And out of the three, which type of column, I'm going to go Dora the Explorer again, which type of column is the one that is outside LMS? Shout it out. So, hopefully you said Corinthian. Ooh, look what I just did. No, I don't want to comment. All right, so Corinthian. Yeah, we got it. All right, back to this. So architecture becomes the model of how buildings should be built. Students all over the ancient world start studying Greek literature in schools. People even use Greek furniture in their homes. Greek plays, as we learned about in the Greek theater unit, become the most popular event. And businesses start to use the same banking system of the Greeks. So because the Greeks have such a connection to arts, literature, government, and finance, that's why some of those buildings have Greek columns. So the period of Greek cultural dominance that we're talking about is known as the Hellenistic Age, because Hellenistic means like the Hellenes, aka, if you remember what the Hellenes are, it is the Greeks. So I'm starting to like my little bullseye arrow thing, but maybe I'll keep it just for these notes. All right, moving on. Philip II of Macedonia. No, he's not related to Philip the First, Philip Lee of period one. No. But if that helps you remember this guy, go Philip. So Philip II of Macedonia is the new ruler of Greece. As we learned, he comes through, takes over the city-states, and we'll learn the details about that today in these notes. The Macedonians do not like the Greeks at all. They were actually rooting for the Persians during the Persian War. So as that was happening, let me get rid of the tools. As the Persians are attacking the Greeks and all that stuff, Macedonia is up in the north of Greece going like, let's go Xerxes, let's go Darius. And as we know, the Persians didn't win. So the Macedonians hate the Greeks, but they love Greek culture. They love Greek things. Now you might be thinking, how could you hate a people but love their culture? I'm going to give you a famous example. President of North Korea, Kim Jong-un, is somebody that obviously no fan of America, but do you know what he loves? The NBA, American movies, that kind of stuff. So there are even people today that can not like a country, but like the things that come from a country. Another example would be like a big evil villain saying, I hate you so much, America, as they are eating McDonald's and drinking Coca-Cola, which are obviously big American products. So that's kind of like the Macedonians. They don't like the Greeks, but they love Greek culture. Now, something tragic happens to Philip II when he was a kid. He's taken hostage. There was a group of thieves from Thebes. I'm going to say that again because it's super confusing. Thieves from Thebes. So, the city-state of Thebes. Philip II is a prince of Macedonia at the time. Who's his dad? Hopefully you said Philip the First, because yeah. He's taken hostage by thieves from Thebes, and they're holding him for ransom. They want payment. And while he's in Thebes, he learns the Greeks have some really good cultural things, but he hates the Greek style of government and he studies weaknesses in it. So eventually, what happens is the Macedonians pay the ransom, they get Philip back, but Philip learned for the period that he was a hostage. Philip II believed it's his destiny to unify the Greek city-states. So he didn't just straight up and conquer them, and I told you a little bit about this while we were still in school. There was a variety of ways that he conquered the Greeks. So we'll start with tactic number 1 is this. He turned the Macedonian army from being volunteers that only fought in the summer into a year-round, well-organized, professional army. So what that means is the Macedonian army, originally, it used to be, okay, you trained in the summer and things like that, but then the rest of the time you did your job. Well, he makes it, no, we need to have a stronger army, more soldiers, and we're going to pay them a salary so that this is a job. So that was way number 1. Way number 2 is he perfects the phalanx. I'm going to show you a picture in a second. So, as you know, a phalanx from our study of the Spartans and other Greeks, they're foot soldiers that form a solid body, but Philip's had 16 rows deep of people. They have their overlapping shields and charge as a group like the Spartans, but the soldiers in Philip's phalanx has spears that are 14 feet long, twice the size as normal spears. His soldiers also have really good skills with slingshots, that's like Bart Simpson style things, and a bow and arrow. This meant that the phalanx wouldn't be vulnerable to the enemy on higher ground. So let me show you what I'm talking about. All right, look at that phalanx. That's what we're talking about. Now, you might be thinking, why are these in the air? Well, because if they were like this, they'd be making shish kebab out of the soldiers that are here. So this is 16 by 16. This is a Philip phalanx. Now, one of the problems with the Spartan phalanx is when the Spartans were going uphill, all they could do was just be in defense mode because they don't have archers or anything. Well, what Philip does is he puts the archers in the back. I feel like that's like a pretty brilliant move. And the archers in the back, if they were going up a hill, the archers would be shooting their bow and arrows at the enemy, and then these people would be blocking from the enemy attacks. So, pretty good moves by Philip. All right, so that's reason number 2, perfected the phalanx. Reason number 3, bribe Greek officials with gold. He would go into a city-state, who's ever in charge, he'll be like, I'll make an offer. You name me the new ruler, I'll give you so much gold you won't know what to do with it. And some Greek leaders were like, you know what? The polis comes first, never helped me anywhere. I'm now thinking about myself. Pay me the money, you can take over the city-state. So that's tactic number 3, and that worked some places. He just straight up bribed people to take over. Tactic number 4. He caused fights between different city-states. So what he would do, he'd have like city-state number 1 and city-state number 2, and he'd go to one of them, and he'd say to them, your city-state is pretty great, but that other city-state, they really hate you. And the one city-state would be like, oh my gosh, we must prepare to attack them, all that stuff. Then you go to the other city-state and say, you know, the city-state I just came from, they're getting ready to attack you too. So then the people would be like, oh my gosh, what's going on? The 2 city-states would fight each other, and then when they were weak from fighting each other, Philip would conquer them both. So that's way number 4. All right. Number 5. He would make treaties with Greek leaders only to break them later. So he would go to like a third city-state and say, wow, that war between those other 2 city-states was crazy. I had to go in and take them over because it was just madness. And Macedonia isn't madness. Macedonia is great. So Philip would say, let's make a peace treaty so that this doesn't happen between us. And the city-state would be like, oh, that's a good idea, peace treaty. Then Philip won't conquer me. Well, Philip didn't plan on honoring that peace treaty. He then brought his army into the city, and the city wasn't ready to fight because they thought, Philip's never going to attack us. We have a peace treaty. Wrong. Philip breaks the rules, takes over cities. All right, I'm just going to mute my... Oh, that didn't work. All right, next. On to the next thing. So this is probably the most scandalous or controversial type thing that happened. So he married 7 different times for political alliances. Yes, he had 7 wives. Well, actually, he had 8 wives because he has an original wife in Macedonia. She doesn't know about any of this. So what Philip would do is he would marry a princess. And then the king was like, oh, this is great. My princess is married to the king of Macedonia. It's going to make me so much more powerful. And then the king would mysteriously die. Who do you think did that? Philip. And then Philip is named the new king. So he did that 7 times in Greece. They didn't know about each other because it's not like today where there's big announcements or things like that. The original wife in Macedonia doesn't know about any of this. So Philip's got 8 wives. And with these 8 wives, he got 8 families too going on. So just to review some things. Ways Philip conquered the Greeks. He improves the phalanx. Oh, I skipped one. Let me go back to this. Turns the Greek army from being volunteers into one that fights professionally. Improved the phalanx. Bribed officials with gold. Caused fight between city-states and then conquered them both. Made treaties and then broke them. And then married to gain political power. All right. So you might be thinking, did anyone try and stop him? Yes. So there is this Greek orator, and a Greek orator is a public speaker. So this Greek orator was named Demosthenes, and he tried to warn the Greeks that Philip was dangerous, but the Greeks don't listen to Demosthenes. So this is a side note about Demosthenes. He's this really great public speaker, and there's some interesting history about how he used to train to be a public speaker. What he would do is he would go down to the sea. He was from Athens, so he would go down to the sea, and to practice his loudness of his speech, he would practice his speeches as the waves are crashing down on the shoreline, because he was like, if people, if I'm loud enough that I can hear my speech and other people that are with me as my practice audience can hear me over the crashing waves, then I know I'm going to be loud enough. The weirdest thing he did, though, he would take pebbles and put them in his mouth. Not a lot of pebbles. I know some of you are picturing huge chipmunk cheeks. No, like a few pebbles. And he would practice his speech with pebbles in his mouth because he was like, if people can understand me with pebbles in my mouth, then I'm definitely going to be really clear when there isn't pebbles in my mouth. And I'm just going to close out of that because that's what keeps dinging. That's my email. So now you don't have to hear the ding. So that's a little bit about Demosthenes. So he's a Greek orator. He's like, hello, do you not see what Philip's doing? And they're like, you know what? Not going to happen. We're just, this is the age, remember, it's after the Peloponnesian War. They're not going to be united to fight against each other. Now, you might be thinking, not even Sparta? Well, Philip sends a message to Sparta, and he says this: you are advised to submit without further delay, for if I bring my army into your land, I will destroy your farms, slay your people, and raise your city. That means destroy your city. So Philip basically says to Sparta, surrender to me, because if I have to go take over your land, I'm going to get rid of your farms, kill your people, destroy your city. Sparta, being Sparta, sends a one-word message to Philip. If, meaning you don't have the guts to do it. So they're referencing this part of Philip's speech. For if I bring my army, Sparta's like, if, like, you don't have the guts to do it, it's not going to happen. So Philip's no dummy. He knows if he tried to conquer Sparta, what would that get him? The Spartans would never fight for him. He'd have to try and kill them all. He'd lose thousands of troops taking it over. And for what purpose? It's just a whole bunch of poor farmland. So Philip, and then Philip's son Alexander later on, say, you know what? We're going to leave Sparta alone. So Sparta doesn't care what Philip's doing. Sparta's left alone. Now, Philip is going to get it in the end. All this is going to add up. So after he has full control of the Greek city-states, he's murdered. And he's murdered by his own bodyguards. And the person that paid these bodyguards to murder him is his wife, the original one from Macedonia. She finds out about Philip and his 7 other secret families. And she's like, you know, I have a child with Philip. When Philip dies, who's going to be in charge? It's going to be like civil war of Philip's kids, of who's going to be in charge. And she's angry because of all the cheating and all that kind of stuff. So she pays his bodyguards a bunch of money. They murder Philip. So she also pays the bodyguards to go to the other cities and murder all of Philip's wives, the other ones, and all of Philip's kids. So the only remaining son of Philip II, when this bloodbath is over, is her son with Philip, Alexander. So she does this to ensure that the budding empire that Philip is forming will go to her son, Alexander. And it did. So that is the fill in the blank notes all about Philip II.